this is how I see the consumption of social media, or the consumption of TV, or the consumption of anything, too much of anything. The consumer catastrophe is so real. If you think about it like that deer, that's catastrophic. The deer is eating. It looks like it's full, like it thinks it's taking care of itself, and then it's all of a sudden dead because it wasn't getting nourished. That's a catastrophe. That could be applied into your life with the media that you're consuming, but not actually getting fed. Hey, it's Carly Burr, and welcome back to Taking Life Offline. Today we're talking all about something that I'm calling the consumer catastrophe. And in order to set the stage, set the tone for today's episode, or however you say that term, I'm going to be sharing an email that I received from a listener named Elle, and she just does a better job at painting what I'd like to talk about today, better than I could do myself. So, here we go. She says, when we are online, consuming so much of others' lives, we are not intentionally creating. For example, I will have a weekly goal. Maybe I want to manifest a few $100s for something. Maybe I want to complete a small personal project. If I'm online all day, social media basically chooses my thoughts for me with whatever decides to appear on my screen. Therefore, that time-consuming choices is my major focus instead of spending time dreaming up what I want for myself. When I'm living offline, I am co-creating and I have my dominant thoughts on what's going on in my life and what I want to bring to it. It's kind of the same physically. When we are surrounded by so many people daily, the last thing we're really thinking about is that important goal. That's why it's so important to step back and unapologetically take time for yourself. A lot of people cannot spend time alone, no judgment, and a lot of times that is why they aren't where they want to be. Distractions. You know what I mean? I love this topic, and I'm going to encourage each one of us today to zoom in, really zoom in on our life and see if we are creating more than we are consuming, or producing more than we are consuming in our lives. Are we actively in the details of our lives as much or more than we are in the details of others? I want us to really clearly think and identify if we're dominant consumer or dominant producer / creator. And this could be consuming anything from TV, books, social media, anything that's taking your time, whether it's a good thing or not, rather than actually doing and creating in our own lives. Today is your wake-up call. Your wake-up call to maybe make a shift from being dominant consumer to dominant producer creator. The producer creator being someone who is active in the details of their life, someone who is making moves, someone who's taking leaps, someone who is intentional about the person that they're becoming and the life that they are living along the way. In Elle's email, she says, if I'm online all day, social media basically chooses my thoughts for me with whatever decides to appear on my screen. And this exact thing right there is one of the biggest reasons I decided to take the leap and leave social media nearly 9 years ago, because it's a little hijacker. Social media was like a little hijacker for my thoughts and for the conversations that I was having, because a lot of those things tended to revolve around what ended up being on the other side of that screen. And you can't really control what you're going to see once you log onto the platform, which is partly why it's so addictive, because it's like that, the curiosity, what's going to show up this time, because you honestly do not even know, but there's danger in that because you don't know. So how's it going to affect your mood? How's it going to affect your thoughts and how you're feeling for that day? Are you the only person in your circle who seems to be fed up with social media? Are you feeling alone in your pursuit to live your life offline? Are you looking to build your offline presence so that once you leave, you no longer feel the tug to come back? I would hate for the reason that you couldn't follow through with your desires to live your life offline to be because you didn't have the support that you needed, because you feel like you were alone in this desire. Which is why I want to extend to you an invitation to join my free community. It's called Offline the Community, and it is the place to come and connect with amazing people from all corners of the world who are also on a mission to embrace life offline. I want to invite you to come as you are. I want to let you know that you're welcome here, whether you've already left social media, whether you've left social media and gone back many times in the past, or whether you've never even attempted this yet far. You are welcome just as you are, wherever you are currently sitting on your journey. We want to support you inside this community. I'll leave a link in the description for you to join us inside this free community as you get ready to lace up your shoes and start walking this path less traveled. This is the place you're going to want to be, to come and get the support you need and to offer the support to others who are also walking this path less traveled. I hope to be able to support you along your way, and I hope to see you on the inside really soon. The other night, I was at a neighbor's gathering. She got a bunch of people together to discuss a podcast episode that she had picked. And there's this group of probably about 30 women. And as everyone was discussing and talking about the podcast episode, one girl in particular, when she shared, she had mentioned in her comment that she had left social media 8 months ago. So when I heard that, you better believe I flagged her down. After the discussion had wrapped up, I went over and I was like, hey, I need to talk to you. Come and find me when you're done talking to this group. And so when I got to talk to her, I was asking him, like, I want to hear about your experience. I want to hear why you decided to take the leap. I want to hear all the details. And among many things, she shared with me that one of the positives to now being off of social media is that it's changed the conversation and the type of relationship that she has with her spouse. Now, she'd only been married for, I think, like a year and a half, so pretty newlywed. And she had told me that when she was on social media, she and her husband would often send each other memes, and they would kind of communicate throughout the day just sending memes. And she said, so when we get together at the end of the day, we had already kind of been communicating throughout the day, and we didn't have a whole lot to talk about other than the memes that we were that we were sending each other throughout the day. So she said, once I wasn't on social media anymore, we were no longer sending the memes and having those touch points all day long. So when we got together at the end of the day, we had so much more to talk about. And the quality of conversation was obviously a lot better and a lot deeper than the memes that we were sending earlier that day. So I love that she shared that about her experience offline so far, because what a great foundation, what a better way to start kicking off your marriage in the first years. To build that good foundation through more meaningful conversation rather than through conversation about what you're consuming or what you're looking at online. Which leads me to the next point I really wanted to emphasize, which is when you're online, a lot of conversation ends up being about what you saw online. This person, that, this thing, that, this product, whatever it is, it just tends to kind of lead the conversation if you're majority consumer. And that's not to say that it doesn't also apply to someone who's also producer or creator in their life. It's just that more so it's at the forefront of the mind of the person who is consuming more than they are creating and producing. When what so much as you're consuming has to do with other people, has to do with things that are totally irrelevant in your life, that's going to be a lot of the conversations that you end up having, because that's a lot of what your life is. It's a lot of what you pay attention to, which is then what you talk about. So it's kind of hijacking, again, more meaningful, intentional, deep, fulfilling conversation, which turns into better relationships. And that's something that I heavily noticed when I was on Instagram. I noticed that I talked about a lot of things that I saw, the annoying things, the things that added zero value to my life. And if anything, that is just more of a distraction in my life that was unnecessary, because it really wasn't adding to, it was more so taking away from the way things could be. So when Elle then goes on to say in her email, when I am living offline, I am co-creating. And I have my dominant thoughts on what's going on in my life and what I want to bring to it. I literally could not think up a better way to say that. It's perfect. She said it just so beautifully, which is why I had to share her email, because she says it so crystal clear and it's so incredibly true. When you're living offline, your dominant thoughts are what's going on in your life. It puts you back in control rather than giving the control up to whatever you end up seeing online. That is being a producer in your life. And this stretches far past being a consumer or a producer of just the media. That is being a creator and a producer of your feelings and of your thoughts that you want to have in your life. And those things inevitably end up becoming the actions that you take. So you see, when you're consumer feeds consumer. It seems that the more you consume, the more you consume. Whereas the more you produce, the more you produce. Production feeds more production. Now, I'm sure you've experienced this in your life, so I wanted to kind of give a tangible example for what I'm trying to say. So, say you're watching Stranger Things. So you decide you want to start that season, or you want to start Suits, whatever you want to watch. And so you start the first episode, and you go, I'm just going to watch one tonight. I don't have a whole lot of time. I'm going to squeeze this in there. So you watch the first episode. What happens when that episode ends? You want to watch the next one because it's a cliffhanger, because you're into the story, you're invested in it now. So before you know it, you spend a whole entire Saturday going, okay, it's only 8 episodes. What if I just knock them all out today? Though I don't have to spend more time another day watching this. I'm like telling you how my brain thinks. So what do? You find yourself on a Saturday having binged 8 or 9 hours, however long the season is, of Stranger Things, and just spending the whole day consuming. And I'm not saying that that is not a bad thing to do. Every once in a while. All the time would not be good. But I honestly do not watch TV shows because this happens to me. I will watch one episode and then I'm like, oh, I have to see the next. And I don't like feeling that way. I don't like feeling like I really like such a pull to watch this. So I just don't make the time to watch TV. Instead, for my own life, I have found so much more value at this season producing, which is here. I've found this mission that I'm so driven, I'm so invested in, because I've noticed a huge impact on my life, and I can't help but want to shout from the rooftops and bring other people onto this path less traveled and have them experience the value that it can bring to their life as well. So me producing here, me filming, me recording these things is bringing a lot of value into my life, and it happens to be me producing and creating at the same time, which is in turn helping other people as well. I'm in this phase of my life, and I feel like I have been actually in a lot of different ways, in a lot of meaningful ways, for a super long time. Probably ever since I've left social media, I've been in primary creator, primary producer mode of my offline life. I've been building my offline presence with my family, with people who matter the very most in my life. And then now I also find myself producing in this way also, which is very fulfilling to me. Very, very fulfilling, and is something that I have found so much joy and meaning in my life, on top of everything that I've built offline as well. So I feel like the seasons of your life also have a lot to do with whether you're primary consumer or primary creator or producer. But I also think that you have a lot of power over the shift of the season, over the change of the season. If you feel like you've been in a major consumer season, I think you can consciously make the shift to primary producer, primary creator. I have a friend who, when she heard I was starting a podcast, she was like, oh, I wish I had time to do something like that. And she is so busy. I will 100%, she is incredibly busy. She works full time. She has children. She is constantly doing something. But I also know that she chooses to watch shows at the end of the day, which is her choice. She needs time to herself. She needs time to wind down. Absolutely. But then when she's left feeling like she wants a little bit more out of her life, then I'm going, okay, well, this extra time that you have at the end of the day to wind down, which yes is necessary in whatever way looks different for every single person. But if she were to spend that time, maybe she wanted to start a podcast. She told me I'd love to do something like that if I had the time. If she were to take some of that time, not even all of it, towards working on something that she really cares about, something that is really meaningful and for her only, she might feel a little more content and a little more happy than just spending that free time consuming, but also producing for herself, not just for her children, for everyone else, which she's giving all day, but giving that time to herself to create in a way that's meaningful and precious to her. Now, this is to say that if you're someone who's sitting there going, oh, I wish I really had more time for my interests, time for my hobbies, I bet you do. If you find yourself constantly consuming social media in your free time, consuming TV, consuming whatever it is, and you're saying you don't have free time, there are always little pockets of time, whether it's at the end of your day, whether it's in the middle of your day or in the middle of your morning. I bet you can find the time if you make the shift from primary consumer to producer creator. It's like Elle says again in her email. She says, it's so important to step back and unapologetically take time for yourself. A lot of people cannot spend time alone. No judgment. And a lot of times that's why they aren't where they want to be. Distractions. You know what I mean? Yeah. We know what you mean. We know exactly what you mean. We're already distracted enough without social media, without the TV, without all the things that we have today. We're already distracted enough, let alone with all these things at our fingertips. And I 100% agree with what she's saying about people having a hard time being alone these days. And absolutely no judgment at all towards these people. Like, I think we all feel that way because we've kind of been conditioned this way in society with these devices. I'm talking about more than just physically being alone. Like, you could be alone in your bedroom and you could be on your phone tapping into the world, tapping into what everyone else is doing, and then you're not really alone anymore because you're tapping into everything else rather than being with yourself, with your thoughts, and not having any distractions at all. I think this is such an uncomfortable thought for a lot of people today because we're not used to that. We have constantly distractions, constant stimulation. So without that, it's a little uncomfortable. And I know that this is like a lot of people's worst nightmare in the whole world is to have to be alone with their thoughts and no distractions at all, because it faces you to face yourself. But I encourage you to create some space from the noise, create space from distractions, spend time alone, curating the way that you want to think, the way you want to feel about yourself and others, or whatever it is. Take back control of your thoughts and your feelings that then will become your actions. Once you start doing this more often, you won't be so intimidated anymore. It'll start to become more normal, more comfortable, as is anything that you choose to spend the time doing or working on. So spend the time in the discomfort, lean into it, and soon enough, I have no doubt, you'll find yourself on the other side, actually enjoying your time to yourself, enjoying silence, enjoying stepping away from the noise and from the distraction. Honestly, I think that part of the reason that we are a lonely, depressed, unsatisfied generation is because we are overstimulated. We overconsume. We fill our minds with everyone else's agendas, everyone else's events, what everyone else seems to be doing, that we leave very little time for us to be intentional about ours. We're watching everyone else live online, but we're not really living so much ourselves. We're looking at everyone else who seems so happy, then sitting wondering why we don't feel the way that they look. We're dissatisfied because someone out there always has more, whether it's things, whether it's friends. Someone always looks better than we do. Someone's always having more fun than we are. No wonder we're dissatisfied. So yes, we're filling our minds, filling our time, filling our days, but it's like the deer who eats hay all day and is super full, their belly is bloated, yet they fall over and die after no time because they weren't getting nourished. It was just a filler. It wasn't actually giving them the nutrients that they need. This is like the media that we're consuming. Yes, we're consuming, and it seems like we're doing things right, but is it empty? Is it something that's just filling up time, filling up space, taking from our life rather than giving us the nutrients, giving us the time and the fulfillment that we need? This is how I see the consumption of social media, or the consumption of TV, or the consumption of anything, too much of anything. The consumer catastrophe is so real. If you think about it like that deer, that's catastrophic. The deer is eating. It looks like it's full, like it thinks it's taking care of itself, and then it's all of a sudden dead because it wasn't getting nourished. That's a catastrophe. That could be applied into your life with the media that you're consuming but not actually getting fed. We don't want this catastrophe to be your life that you looked back on and you're going, what in the world happened? What did I do? Or what didn't I do? Because I was so busy all the time, but I left no time to feed myself, to do the things that I actually wanted to do without pressures, without any influence from the outside world that's unnecessary. So yes, I will say it again. The consumer catastrophe is real. It's catastrophic to your future, to your well-being, to be primary consumer forever. We must produce to be happy. We must create. We must be in motion, actively figuring things out as we go, actively taking charge of our lives, and actively building that confidence as we go, taking imperfect action, but action nonetheless. So if you find yourself consuming, then consuming some more to distract yourself from all the consuming that you just did and you're feeling a little bit guilty about, I challenge you to act, to start making the shift from consumer to producer creator, creator of the feelings, of the relationships, of the mindsets that you want to have in your life. If you choose today to stay as a primary consumer, you could expect the outcomes that you're currently experiencing, the feelings that you're experiencing, the lack of reaching your goals, or whatever it might be. You can continue to expect that. You can continue to feel like that deer who's being fed but never nourished. You must create space for quiet. You must create space for boredom. If we don't create this space, the overstimulation, the overstimulants, they will take over. Don't let your future life be the potential next catastrophe when you sit and look back at what you could have done, where you could have been had you have started producing and creating now. You don't want to look back in a year from now or 2 years from now and be sitting in the same place that you are. You want to have started that project. You want to have started cooking those meals so you can improve your cooking skills. You would have wanted to put in the extra time and effort towards these relationships to strengthen them and to make them better. You will have wanted to have started the painting. You will have wanted to do, you fill in the blank with whatever it is for you. So my simple challenge today is for you to ask yourself if you currently are primary consumer or primary producer creator, and to start intentionally making the shift and taking more action in your life, because this is your life. This is a big deal. Your life is everything. So treat it that way. It's time to become more intentional. It's time to become more aware. Let's choose today to be producers, to be creators of our lives and take control of our destiny. Thank you so much for listening to another episode today of Taking Life Offline. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to leave me a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or drop a comment below if you're watching on YouTube and let me know what you thought. And if you yourself find yourself to be more primary consumer or primary producer, I'd love to hear where you're sitting. And share this episode with a friend who you think could use this wake-up call, could use this push to become primary producer and take more control of their life. Thank you so much in advance. I appreciate you so very much, and I will catch you next Monday.